In 2004 BC, Elamite invaders poured across the eastern borders and burned the Sumerian capital of Ur to the ground. The collapse of the Third Dynasty shattered the region. Nomadic Amorites migrating from the west and competing warlords carved the fertile southern plains into rival, warring city-states. Controlling this fractured territory required a mechanism far stronger than standing armies. To establish a lasting empire, a ruler had to convince his subjects that the cosmos itself had chosen him to lead. Mesopotamian society operated under a strict theological logic. Every political border, treaty, and war on earth was a direct reflection of disputes happening among the gods in heaven. These deities were not abstract concepts. The people believed their gods physically lived inside the crafted gold and wooden cult statues housed in the city temples, requiring priests to wash, clothe, and feed them lavish meals twice a day. When a rival army besieged a city, their ultimate target was the temple. Capturing and deporting a living cult statue was the literal transfer of cosmic favor from one kingdom to another. A successful emperor had to dominate two landscapes simultaneously. He had to capture the physical walls of the city, and he had to hijack the loyalty of the heavens. Centuries after Ur burned, an Amorite king named Hammurabi launched a series of calculated military campaigns to force the southern city-states back into a unified political entity known as Babylonia. To hold these distinct cultures together, he constructed a massive, highly bureaucratic legal system. His written code enforced retributive justice, applying strict penalties that separated free elites, commoners, and slaves. This carving on Hammurabi's famous diorite stele shows the king standing before the seated sun god of justice, Shamash. The relief explicitly depicts the deity handing the symbols of law directly to the mortal ruler. By placing his laws under Shamash's protection, Hammurabi made a legal breach or a political rebellion a direct assault on the divine order. As Babylon grew into an imperial capital, its local patron deity, Marduk, was elevated to the highest position in the southern pantheon. Scribes codified this transition in the state creation epic, the Enuma Elish. The text detailed how Marduk violently defeated the dragon of chaos to organize the cosmos, earning supreme kingship over the other gods. The kings of Babylon ruled with this divine blessing, but their authority was heavily regulated by Marduk's wealthy priesthood through an annual spring event known as the Akitu festival. During the ceremonies, the high priest would strip the Babylonian emperor of his crown, drag him before Marduk's statue, and strike him across the face until he wept, demanding he declare his absolute submission. No matter how large the king's standing army, his mandate to rule for the coming year was entirely dependent on passing this ritual and satisfying the temple elites. In the north, the Neo-Assyrian Empire solved the problem of earthly authority differently. Their supreme deity, Ashur, absorbed the characteristics of older gods and became the singular patron of the state. The Assyrians eliminated the tension between the temple and the crown. They viewed endless military expansion and the accumulation of foreign wealth as a direct, holy command from Ashur. This stone relief displays the systematized structure of the Assyrian military machine, depicting heavily armed soldiers marching in lockstep beside a royal war chariot. They weaponized mass deportations and psychological terror against conquered territories to enforce order. Unlike Babylon's delicate balancing act between king and priest, Assyria engineered a society where religious worship and brutal imperial conquest were the exact same activity. Because the Mesopotamians believed the volatile moods of these gods directly caused droughts, floods, and invasions, scholars became obsessed with reading the heavens to predict their will. Royal astrologers kept meticulous records of the night sky, mapping constellations and documenting the exact planetary paths of celestial bodies across centuries of observation. This diagram illustrates how that mathematics divided the celestial sphere into 360 measurable degrees. The theological quest to read the heavens transformed the sky into a field of measurable data, providing future civilizations with a foundational system of mathematical astronomy. The native control of Mesopotamia finally unraveled during the Neo-Babylonian period under the reign of an eccentric ruler named Nabonidus. This carved stele highlights the precise nature of his heresy, Above the king, the central and most prominent symbol is the crescent moon, representing Sin. The deity Nabonidus attempted to elevate above Marduk as the supreme god. Nabonidus then abandoned his capital for a 10-year exile in the distant Arabian desert. Without the king physically present in the city, the priesthood was forced to suspend the vital Akitu New Year festival. Halting the highest religious ritual of the state alienated the powerful temple elites. The alliance between the crown and the altar collapsed, stripping the government of its internal legitimacy. When the expanding Achaemenid Persian Empire, led by Cyrus the Great, marched on Babylon in 539 BC, they found a city already fractured by internal religious strife. This clay artifact, known as the Cyrus cylinder, shows exactly how the Persians capitalized on the chaos. The inscribed Akkadian cuneiform is a piece of state propaganda, declaring that Marduk himself had rejected Nabonidus and handpicked Cyrus to restore true worship. Babylon's formidable walls failed to protect a kingdom divided by its own gods. The city fell through a masterfully executed theological coup. The Persian conquest ended native Mesopotamian self-rule forever. Over the following centuries, the towering ziggurats eroded into the plains, and deities like Marduk and Ashur faded from living worship into obscure mythology. But the intellectual frameworks they built to understand their cosmos survived, giving us the 60-second minute and codified law. The empires collapsed because the delicate balance between earthly kings and divine authority eventually fractured. Yet the bureaucratic, legal, and scientific tools they engineered to maintain that balance outlasted the very gods they were built to serve.